Hello, everyone. Welcome to my teaching learning session. We continue and come down to our last unit and block of emotional intelligence, BPC 1A3 with me, which is block 4, unit 7, which is strategies to improve emotional intelligence. And I continue as Sonal Singh Pawar to support you in the final unit. So, talking about the strategies of emotional intelligence, we all know that emotional intelligence is, as per Salvoy and Mayer, one of the most renowned psychologists of emotional intelligence, talks about understanding one's own emotions, equally others, and having that ability to discriminate between the two and utilize it for your benefit to improve on interpersonal relationships and decision making and other cognitive activities. So in this unit, we are just going to do two things, which is strategies related to interpersonal aspect and completely, compile the understanding of this unit. So let's continue with the understanding of how strategies, which is the interpersonal aspect of emotional intelligence, can be supported, which is the first strategy that we need to know about interpersonal is emotional intelligence is bifurcated into two aspects. One is the interpersonal and the other is intrapersonal. So interpersonal aspect is something which is amongst people, with the people, and intrapersonal aspect is something which is going to talk about things which are within you, the intelligence that supports an understanding of you, your feelings, your emotions, your understanding of the world, and how do you take it. Whereas inter is the understanding of others, building the knowledge about others, building on to cooperating with other people, supporting your problem solving by acknowledging their needs, their needs, their motives, and their desires. So coming to the interpersonal aspect of emotional intelligence, we need to know developing empathy is paramount over here. So that means when you want to know or develop the strategy or develop an interpersonal intelligence that supports you to interact with other people, we prefer developing empathy at the first level, which is knowing and putting yourselves in the shoe of the others and to understand the things from the point of view of the others. So this is like, let's take an example, differentiating between the most two common terms that we have, which is sympathy and empathy. Sympathy that we talk about speaks about showing compassion to people and telling them that they can be doing it. Whereas empathy refers to the fact that you tell them that you understand what it feels like by going, in terms of understanding the problem that they went through. Quoting an example here, a child falls down, a friend showing sympathy would be, oh, get up, that you could do it, and you could, ride the cycle back. Whereas at the same time, empathy would refer the cognitive ability and understanding of thinking others' perspective. Oh, I know that you got and it's really might have hurted your knees. It's difficult to stand up, but it's important equally to get up, not keep sitting on the floor, and pick up your cycle and look for a first aid right now. This is in terms of showing compassion, which is utilizing your thinking, reasoning, problem solving from the other person's perspective. So, knowing when the person falls down, you should not be telling them, oh, you're strong, please get up. Knowing I understand that it hurts really bad, falling down on the floor might be hurting your knees. Equally, feel that it's important to get up and look for a first aid. So this is what is empathy and how it differentiates from the two. The two differentiates from one another. Also, it refers to the cognitive ability of thinking from from the other person's perspective and recognize the feelings and emotion. Thus, it involves that you are being sensitive, not only to the fact that what are they thinking, but also what are they feeling, what are their thoughts of the other person, not imposing our beliefs and assumptions on them. Empathy differs from sympathy, which I've already said, that is, predominantly an expression of one's emotional feelings congruent to the others. So telling them, yes, it's important to get up. I know you understand that this would be needed. So that's just sympathy. Telling them, I understand how it feels to be embarrassed. I understand how it feels to be ashamed. That is something, putting yourself there and recognizing the amount of embarrassment and shame that the individual is going through. Next, developing effective communication skill is again important. See, interpersonal talks about one and more people amongst you, which is the fact that you want to develop the interpersonal, you want to develop the communicative skills so that you're able to display, express your emotional equally well. So, what you feel and what you are thinking should be utilized if you have a better communication skill. So when we talk about improving our emotional intelligence skills, an important skill related to an interpersonal arena is listening skill and speaking skill. This is one of the most block point that we need when we talk about interpersonal aspect. Communication always involves active listening. So whenever we are relating to people, and if you want to be using this strategy to be intelligent emotionally, always remember it's important to listen actively. It's important to, look forward to, something which is hearing the how, when, and why of the person. That's how interpersonal intelligence will increase. That's how you'll be able to discriminate what are they feeling and what are you feeling. And may it be a conflict, may it be a problem, may it be decision making, we are able to listen to solutions, listen to problems efficiently, and further go on. And as pointed by Friedman Schultz von Thun, which is 1981 at that time, his four sides model of communication was utilized as one of the best models to increase the interpersonal aspect by using communication. So it was a communication four-sided model. As we see in the middle, we can look up to the image on the on the top. It suggests that there's something green in the soup. So this is the agenda. This is the topic. Factual. We need to look forward to four things. So if you want to develop a strategy, you want to be effectively communicating, please look forward to the factual thing, then the appealing thing, then the relationship, and then the self-revelation. So these are ways that you can utilize your effective communication. So let's take an example: interacting with somebody new. You need to be both appealing in relationship, and if you're interacting in a conflict, you need to be factual and self-revelation. That's important. You need to be very factual when arguing with somebody. So these are four knots that you can utilize. Let's use the same example which is given on the model. There is something green in the soup. So the factual thing is that people is talking about something green in the soup. So it's green. That's the factual content. Appealing. Tell me what it is. So appeal doing is you need to appeal what is the thing that you want to raise here. That's the appeal. Relationship. You should know. So relationship connotation is what the other person is expecting out of you. And then the self-revelation, which talks about I don't know what it is. So you actually tell out what you do not or do notice here. I'll give you another example. Having a conflict with somebody on the on the reasons of not being coming to common grounds while completing a project. So what is the factual content? What is going wrong, right? Or what is the difference? What's the appeal? Explain me or tell me what's going wrong. So that's what you're appealing, that you need to tell us the differences. What is the relationship? You should know that this is equally important. So you putting out you extending your own feelings to tell that your ideas is equally important. And self-revelation is I do not get your ideas. So this is how you utilize emotional intelligence, by incorporating effective communication, and a model given by Friedman Schultz von Thun in 1981. So this completes with two aspects of it. Now let's come to the third one that talks about enhancing decision making and problem solving ability. Rightly mentioned, emotional intelligence will always have this component of problem solving. One's emotional intelligence can actually be defined as the ability to identify and define problems, as well as generate and implement potentially effective solutions. So this is true that when we relate emotional intelligence, we need to relate it to problem solving, that because it is an ability. Emotional intelligence is an ability to identify and define problems and generate, implement potentially effective solutions. Next is developing conflict management skills. So speaking, communication will always be incorporating conflict management, handling arguments, handling difference of opinion. So how do we learn this strategy? See, conflict arises when other party feels that his interests are not being met or are not being considered. And they feel they're ignored, they're threatened, suppressed, or they're not, the worthiness is not given to them. They're not being valued. So as a result, one becomes aggressive in ensuring that one's interests are put forth, becomes, or on the other end, an individual stops talking. That means an individual becomes submissive. They just tone themselves down, ensuring one's interest, and becomes submissive to the other person out of fear or feeling of inferiority. and withdraw and avoid. So these are two things that happens in a conflict. The outcome becomes in both ways unproductive. You really cannot solve a conflict and give rise to any sort of thing because it leads to furthermore hostility. Imagine having a conflict and you start fighting, become aggressive. That something will lead to which is bombarding of emotions. Again, something which is not a strategy of emotional intelligence. The other would be submissive, not talking, not considering yourself as a part of that group. You withdraw and avoid. That's again an unproductive way. So, which will again both of them will give rise to hostility, ignorance, negativity towards the people. So that is something that we talk about as conflict management skills. Being able to identify what is the need is important in conflict management. There are furthermore following measures that can help enhance decision making and problem solving ability that can add to communication skills, which is knowing about the problem in detail, which is important even for just problem solving and not using emotional intelligence. Kindly, before relating to people, note their problem in terms of what, how, when, and where. If we are not able to do that, if we are not able to associate to the problems in details as nature, identifying, labeling, describing it, the aspects, its frequency, its intensity, its impact on the individuals is unknown. You don't get to know what is coming to me, how am I managing it, also what you throw out to people out of aggression, frustration. You don't know its intensity, you don't know its impact, you don't know why are you labeling people. It will lead to thwarting of people's emotion, imbalance in emotion. Next ways of developing the ability of problem solving is knowing about one's interest, attitudes, weakness, strength, opportunities, emotions, and belief systems, etc. Next, knowing about the reality or context in which the problem has been considered or occurred. Remember, knowing the context of the problem is very important. If you are feeling that the problem is with that individual not being able to decide, know the context. When are they not being able to decide? When are the times that they feel difficult to decide? Then developing the ability of self-regulation. This is extremely important as an emotional intelligence. You need to regulate your emotion, regulate when to speak what, how to express, what not to say, what to say. Cultivating a positive attitude, which is for optimistic thinking, feeling and speaking and thinking about the positive, which is optimistic thought. Also indulging in creative thinking, which is enhancing your creative thinking. And last is learning various strategies of problem solving, such as heuristics, algorithms, sequence method, to be problems which are more analytical or problems which require shortcut, which are heuristics. So this was something that spoke about interpersonal aspect of emotional intelligence if you want to develop. So speaking of communication and interpersonal skills, there are further other which are mentioned on the screen. We need to be good listeners. Let's just do an overview. Verbal communication needs to be clear. You need to have good work ethics if it's, considering it your workplace. High amount of self-confidence. There needs to be a team play. You need to be coping with pressure. Troubleshooting skills should be there. You should not get anxious and panicked. Interpersonal intelligence and interpersonal intelligence actually talks about not losing out the troubleshooting skills. You've become unmanageable, panicky. That just suggests that probably the EQ is also less, and at the same time, the problem solving ability is also less. Knowing how to cope with pressure, time management is extremely important. Empathy is always going to be given paramount. Team play and positive approach to criticism. Positive approach to criticism is extremely, extremely important here. Now, let's move, as I said, to the final unit of emotional intelligence that will usually talk about its application. So let's go through what do we complete here as emotional intelligence. We are going to talk about introduction and objectives, significance, what is the importance of emotional intelligence, application of EI in educational settings. So how do we utilize EI in education, and then how do we develop it in students? Is it important? Also, fostering schools as emotionally intelligent communities. It's about rebuilding the school so they become capable of building an opportunity for children that they are emotionally intelligent made. Application of EI at the workplace, application of EI for health, mental health, and well-being, application of again EI in interpersonal relationship and conflict management. So this is completely the last unit telling about why did you really need, what's the significance of EI, emotional intelligence at intelligence influences others. I'll give you a simple example. Today the fact that people are lacking emotional intelligence is the reason that we are facilitated by other people's thought and other people's point of view. So what you believe about yourself depends on how other people behave with you, which suggests that you potentially are highly influenced by other people and its outcome in the myriads of fields. Be it a social relationship, professional performance, an emotionally intelligent person is able to understand, manage his or her emotions better, and obviously foster better interpersonal relationships with others. Second, emotional intelligence, this is its significance. It not only impacts your performance in school or work, it has a deeper impact on life by influencing the way you handle interpersonal relationships, the way you handle your partners, the way you handle family members in conflicts, the way you handle work, foster your co-workers, and overall impact of emotional intelligence has also been seen in influencing health outcomes for individuals. It is seen that better the emotional intelligence, better is the health of the individual. You see them performing well, doing well, feeling more fit, more vigilant towards their diet and their health, and this leads to equivalent to what? Better well-being and better mental health. So emotional intelligence can be suggested to be directly indirectly related to your mental well-being and your mental health. Now, moving ahead, let's understand its strategies. Are they really important in the educational setup? Truly, it is. Emotional intelligence needs to be seen when we need to foster a community, when we need to foster a world, I feel a global change, we need to make changes in the youth. The youth resides in the educational system, which is they are lying there. So as Plato said, centuries ago, that all learning has emotional base. It does. We check out every kind of learning. If you see its application, all the learning can be seen in the world around you. You utilize it. When we say that analytical aspects do not have a learning, it's a complete shutdown. We talk about physics, we see everything happening around us, the motions, the inertia, everything's working. So every learning has something emotionally based which is attached to us, the movement, everything, the acceleration, all of this has an emotional base according to Plato. It is increasingly now being realized that emotional development not only is good for your academic performance but also makes you socially competent. It is an overall development of a child. So today I would likely to be mentioning this. People who are far more emotionally intelligent than academically intelligent are doing better in life. The reason is intelligence requires a sequential steps of performing an action. Emotional intelligence is that power key that you can utilize and put that key into any sort of fixed hole, and it will submerge and collaborate with that. Whereas intelligent is a complete lock and key for its problem and solutions. EI is not. EI is that ability that makes you adaptive. So, making children learn this and making our community be a learned community where teachers, students interact in an environment where knowledge sharing and sustained development of the youngsters are as productive members of the society. Goal of education is not only to just to gain knowledge. We are not here to provide you, a sequential thought idea and we want you to rote learn it. The idea is to provide you knowledge and you utilize, assimilate, integrate that knowledge it within yourself so that you're able to contribute towards the growth and well-being of the community. So that's how we understand emotional intelligence being impacted in the field of education, and its need is also quite a much. It not only will take care of the communities coming ahead but also make them mentally fit, well-being fit. There's going to be a lesser amount of mental health issues in our country. Now, fostering emotional intelligence in students, for example, you want to foster this kind of intelligence in students, is will it really impact them? It will. Emotionally facilitated children, if increases in our society, we need to know the overall well-being of our country will increase. So emotional intelligence is found to predict better academic performance and social skills. So the better the child performs, remember, the more will be the self-confidence, the more is going to be their ability to understand themselves. So if you perform better, there's a sense of confidence that gets boosted of the child. The child feels initiative in more activities, not only in curricular activities, but also the child you will see will now interact in co-curricular activities, will enhance their social skills. Their social skills are going to be far better than the others. Also, studies have indicated a strong relationship between students' emotional intelligence and their classroom behavior. This is something we can watch out in our environment very easily. Children who are emotionally disturbed and children who are feeling chaos of emotions inside them, they tend to uh, they tend to experience higher behavioral problems in class. They get into fight, spats come in, verbal spats happen. They are not able to regulate their emotion well. They lose it in between a conversation, they lose it in between their classes. So we need to know, studies have indicated the better is going to be the emotional intelligence of a child, the better is going to be their classroom behaviors. Also to know, the more emotionally combated the child is, the more actively child will be initiative and quoting their problems frequently and without any hesitance. Lacking emotional intelligence, which is lacking that ability to feel each other, to understand each other, actually develops that feeling of inferiority in children, and they do not interact. Once they stop asking questions, when they stop being adaptive in class, they stop relating to the others, I feel the need of the knowledge, the importance of the knowledge is going in vain. We are just providing knowledge in a system where they're rote learning it and mugging it out into papers, but not understanding it. So, emotionally intelligent people demonstrate high skills in managing one's emotion. They also demonstrate a high sense of subjective well being, show adaptive resilience in the face of future stressful circumstances, which is they are very resilient, they're very adaptive also. They bounce back in stressful conditions because they know the intensity, the how, why, what of the problem, because they relate to people well. They relate to themselves well. So that is something we need to know, need to foster emotional intelligence in school and in children. Let's understand, as per the image suggests, role of emotional intelligence in education in a simple way. Emotional intelligence and social intelligence in learning in school will give you what? Make you more empathetic. Why? It will make children understand other people's problem more. They'll be good with their verbal communication now. They won't be harsh. They won't be bullying children. So empathy reduces such behaviors like bullying, name casting, teasing, etc. Accountability comes easy to children. That means children understand, uh, the need of being accountable for their own action. They will stop blaming other people. They will stop showering their problems to other people, and will be relating to the problems in a way that I need to know through what I'm going through. I need to understand what the problem is. It is my problem, I need to solve it and hold responsibility if it goes wrong, which is like committing something wrong and then throwing it to other people. That's lack of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence will build in children where they say, yes, I did it wrong, but my condition was these. So that is something which will, a very expansive role of emotional intelligence in school. Then respect, considerate behavior is also encouraged through emotional intelligence because it's the interpersonal aspect. You become more compassionate towards people, more empathetic towards people. Also, development of trust, which is belief in people and institution, also increases. A positive school culture leads to an overall success, which is very true. The more positive, the more emotionally comforting the school is going to be. It's not only going to impact the success of the student, but also the success of the school. So EI helps to face test of life and not test your life at multiple ways, which is very true. It will support you to explain, understand, be accountable, respect, and be empathetic with people, build a trust, and at the same time, not, it does not talk about a life of test, but also a test of life. So that's something which is extremely important. Let's continue understanding fostering, the same last topic, fostering emotional intelligence in school. To build in that, school educational system in Western countries have been focusing on it structurally, which is they have been putting out emotional and social learning for a few years. How this can be done even in our countries, or how we can incorporate individually if we are dealing with a smaller set of children. There is a model which is called the social emotional learning model. It is such an umbrella term which talks about variety of education programs and curricula that could focus upon processes that helps and support children learn and apply a set of social, emotional, behavioral, and character skills, which is required in schooling, in workplace relationship, and citizenship also. So this is SEL. There are framework of SEL. SEL has a framework of four areas. There are skills, there are context, development, and outcome. So SEL skills are divided into, there are skills which are three: emotional, cognitive, and interpersonal. Then there would be context of development, and further the outcome. So this is actively being practiced in Western countries so that it supports children to develop skill, character, emotion, behavior, and social, abilities. We equally can understand, and individually looking forward to lesser number of children, we can help support this. So let's understand this bigger framework given by Johnson Boffard in 2012, something which has not gone even a decade, almost like just a decade back, which is 2012. Jonas and Bohart stated that we have skills which are three: social, emotional, and interpersonal that we have, and at the same time, there are things that we need to talk and take care of in terms of is the context, development outcome, and skills. So this is how they identified. Let's go on the top to understand this. We have skills in the middle, then we have identity, values, and perspectives, which is, the home, community, education, and political context. So what is the context? The context is the identity, the values, and the perspectives. So where are changes in emotional intelligence required? We need to make them identify themselves properly, children, in terms of knowing who they are, what they want to do, their values, that there aren't any clash of values of children despite of being so multi-secular. We need to understand it personally. Then there are perspective. Developing a perspectual thinking is also something which is important in terms of context. Context is situation that we talk about. Then also another thing is teacher background, social emotional competence, pedagogical skills. All of this is equally something that needs to be taken care according to SEL model of Jonas and Moffat. The rest are the thing. Let's start from the other. Let's take an example. There is a school and classroom context, which is climate and culture. Climate, culture, healthy relationship, classroom management. So, context would be all of these, where you need to have social, emotional, and cognitive, which is also called interpersonal skills, pro social norms, school policy and practices, safe and inclusive environment. So, these are all school and classroom context. Now, effective SEL implementation in these contexts is opportunity skill instruction. Develop those skills in children, the social, emotional, and cognitive or interpersonal. Instruct them, give them opportunity to use them these skills. So probably provide them role plays, provide them ability to enhance these skills that they've been instructed or utilize it. Then coordination across settings, PD or training, which is being able to coordinate all of the sets of understanding and skills together and utilizing or train other people. And how this can be done, this training, self instruction can come from teacher, and teacher also with a background who has an emotional and social understanding, has a competence, and their pedagogical skills are also equally stronger, so they can connect to the child's knowledge to these skills. What will it lead to? Short term outcomes: aggression, depression, social skills, peer relationship, and academic skills will go shoot up, which is true. Once you associate better environment, better classroom management, policies being learned by the children, the skills being instructed well, the children will learn to be less depressive and aggressive. They will develop stronger peer relationship, academic skills will increase. So what are we doing? We are changing their perspective, identity, and values. What is the long term outcomes that we get through this SEL? Better mental health. We have a positive attitude and thinking, which will lead to a positive behavior. And at last, something which we all are looking forward to, an academic growth. So, all of this is running between what? So, your context and the other thing can be associated to what all places? Home, community, social, political context, etc. So remember, context has your home, community, educational system. Skills are social, emotional, interpersonal that we have. Outcomes are something which is short and long term outcomes that we have spoken of, and skill is the beginning that we start from. So it's skill, context, development, and outcome. This finishes with the SEL model. Utilizing these smaller and easy, simple ways will impact us in a greater way. We need to know there's an interplay of inter and intrapersonal and system level fostering emotional intelligence in educational setting. It is not only the student who needs facilitation in developing emotional competence. Training needs to be there. So when we talk about training in skill development, that needs to be there of the teachers also, of the staff also. So overall ethos of the school needs to be changed and facilitated. So this is something which will help them nurture themselves well and better. which also implies that SEL is not a difficult framework but far more easy than we assume it to be. Now let's understand fostering schools as emotionally intelligent. So if you want to build up a school which is emotionally intelligent, what do we need to know? See, school is a community. Community learning is important. Please make sure that the transfer of information takes place only through formal channels. Informal channels should be restricted. Informal channels could be utilized when children actually learn emotionally, being emotionally intelligent, and they can utilize it. So informal channels can have activities. Fostering schools as emotionally intelligence community is to create an environment which makes all stakeholders, which is students, the management, the teachers, parents, and connected authorities, safer, supported, appreciated, and together. So what will, if you would put out emotionally intelligent community, what it will give you, how will it change the environment? Remember, the connect between the parents and the teachers will also get better. Don't we see today parents and teachers are fighting for children? Parents have a different idea about their children, and parents have a different idea about their children. They're fighting, they are making life difficult for each other. The child notices it, he or she takes advantage. So if we foster emotional intelligence, remember, all of this will not happen. We will have emotion being used far better, taught and learned. Then integrating the SEL, which is equally an important program at the systemic level, has proven beneficial in nurturing emotional intelligence, not only amongst the student, but also all teachers that we have on a larger scale. So once the training start, remember, the emotional intelligence program not only facilitates one or two teachers, but everyone in the school environment. It's for everybody. Then integrating the SEL program into school requires training in emotional intelligence skills for teachers and as well as the administrators. The more that we make this happen, the better supported societies are we going to. And understand the factor, the more we foster emotional intelligence to the school and community, the community itself will become of help to the world. At the moment, we feel educational system is such a traditional aspect that goes on from A to Z in a pattern. And children are, mugging up, learning, also stressed out. All of this will go because the school itself becomes a community of support. It is giving out such things which will never make stress or make education, a traditional conventional education, a burden on children. Also, there are some researchers that emphasize that SEL program integration at a self level must focus on what. So, if you want to put out a self integration program, what are something that you need to keep in mind? Teaching children to apply social emotional skills both in and out school. So it's just not that you've learned something today and you just practice it in school. You do not do those role plays, do this activity enhancement or activity display with other people outside the school. Building connection to schools by creating a caring and nurturing learning environment. This is important for schools to develop. Providing developmentally and culturally appropriate instruction, which is very true. Being a Delhi NCR school, if anyone has studied there, we need to know we need to be very democratic, very diplomatic at times, and are also equal to all. So your skills or the instruction which is provided by a teacher should be neutralized to all developmentally and culturally. How will that happen when the teacher is trained? So teacher training is equally important. Enhancing school performance by addressing cognitive, affective, social dimensions of learning, which is you can only talk about greater school performance once you address cognitive needs, the affective is emotional needs, and the social dimensions of learning. So I always feel children should always know why are they learning, what are they learning, how it is going to support them as a person, and where they can utilize. So if this is done, the what you have told, how you have told, and where have you told, so the education makes sense. It tells them that why are we learning. Even children at an age of 10 and 9 should know why are they learning and what is it all about. Encouraging school partnership with family, including continuous evaluation and improvement. This is an extremely important point because until we do not involve parents, remember, the equilibrium of the child is not maintained. The child will not perform well, emotionally will never be buffered because we do not cater to parents. Now, coming to application at workplace, emotional intelligence not only is a boon to the, it's not only a boon to the educational system, but also a boon to the workplace, and it's highly important at workplace. Knowing, say, interpersonal communities and social skills are crucial aspects for success, achieving success at work. With the increasing complexity, troubles of tasks, multifold tasks coming to a workplace, people elaborating their work skills and areas, across countries and culture, it actually needs negotiation. Emotional intelligence will not only help you relate to your work people better, but once you expand, it will help you relate to other cultural dimensions, their capacities, their capabilities, their pitfalls also. So you know who needs to be fixed where when you emotionally intelligently fix people at your workplace. Haven't we seen that there are promotions of two kinds? One is vertical and the other one is horizontal. The horizontal promotions are usually when you get collection of tasks at the same level. So that keeps going on and on. So you get in one project that you get similarly of the other project. That's something which is happening horizontally. Vertical promotions are when you're getting promoted to one level to the other level. That is the vertical promotion that we have. So that's something which can be done better once we know people. And there are going to be no disagreements amongst employees, no conflicts, no fights, no ill speaking of one another. Now, two main components of EI that contribute majorly to the success at work are empathy and social skills. So I feel empathy is the most biggest bubble in emotional intelligence. So no matter it's school, no matter it's children, no matter it's workplace, empathy should be developed. Development of empathy is paramount. Empathy is what again the ability to identify one's own emotion, and it shapes the way we perceive other person or event. So empathy is feeling into the other person's shoe as their problem and feeling their problem as per feeling in their shoe, which is understanding their problem with their perspective. So perspectual thinking will increase with empathy, facilitate interpersonal collaboration. This will also reduce the propensity for any sort of prejudice, aggression and violence. That means the more empathetic that you are, the more that you connect into people's problem, the lesser that you will disagree with them, the lesser the aggression that you show to them, lesser violence, and the prejudice is also something this which is going to be far lesser. Also, effective use of the social skills is the second component that leads to success at work. People who are able to connect emotionally and guard their emotions well and socially connect with people at a greater level are usually closer to success rather than the ones who are just academically focusing on work, not knowing what is to be done. Social skills considered important at the workplace primarily concerned with managing interpersonal interaction, resolving conflicts, and negotiation. So remember, the social skills at workplace will also appreciate you for interacting, better interaction with people, better solving of conflicts. They're going to be negotiation rather than arguments, I feel. And effective communication, collaboration with others is cooperative effort. They will do a bit for you, you will do a bit for them, which will increase the social comfort for everybody here. So social skills and empathy becomes the biggest jot point, I feel, for the workplace EI and its benefit. So we need to, once we have soft skill training at workplace, I am sure a lot of people who are working already knows their soft skill training. There's some sort of training. The HR provides us something. If we have all of this, which is empathy and social skill activities and training, that will increase the positivity in the workplace environment. The better that you make people feel, the better that they will perform. The better that they perform, the better outcome will come to the community. So that finishes with something which is EI having the two aspects and two components at workplace. Let's talk about other five things which we feel can be incorporated with workplace, which could be self-awareness, self-management, motivation, social awareness, and social skills as done. So this is SSMSS as per what is something that we should look forward to. Being able to understand your own thoughts, feelings, and emotion, knowing your own limitation, this will make you more emotionally self-aware. Performance better, child performs better, workplace gets better, etc. Self-management is equally important. The better that you manage your emotions, reproduce your desired response, it is better that you will be able to communicate, you become more adaptive. So the better that you manage, adaptation comes. The better that you're able to reproduce your desired response at the right time, you have a positive outlook, your achievement targets are ticked in on time. Motivation is another thing. Motivation is the desire to keep going on, working towards achieving your goal and exceeding the expectations that is set for you. This will lead to goal achievement and guiding better. And social awareness is the accurate understanding of other people about situation. This will come how and make you what. It will make you more empathetic. You will become more aware of the kind of people that you have in your environment. You can utilize them at the right time. And then we come to social skills, which is Once you are able to socially connect to people, associate to people in a better way, mostly everyone involved, you will be able to influence them, coach them, mentor them. Teamwork gets better, conflict resolution gets better, and it might lead to a leadership, which could be an inspirational leadership for you. Now, let's come to the application of EI for mental health, well-being, and health per se. So, when we talk about emotional intelligence, remember emotional intelligence is directly, indirectly related to health, mental health, and well-being. Proponents of EI claim that fostering more constructive, harmonious relationship with other people in society will lead to more happiness, which is so true. The better and more peaceful that we are with people, the more happier we'll be with people. Lesser conflicts, the better distinction in terms of the kind of relationship you have. Researchers also suggest that emotionally intelligent individuals are better skilled in understanding and managing emotion. So they save time, they manage emotions better, they are capable of more adaptive self of themselves in compared to their counterpart with lower EI rather than the healthier EI. So people who have higher EI are the ones who are managing emotions, capable of adaptive solutions, and they tend to have a better well-being. Well-being is contentment, happiness, and satisfaction is more in these people. Also, recent research, of which has been prevailing in the decades, have stated that more the emotional intelligence, the healthier a person is. Lesser, uh, in the today's generation terms, lesser toxic feelings and environment that they will be attracted to. They will be attracted to good eating habits, healthy lifestyles, lesser complexities associated to health. They will understand the need of diet, exercise, because they're emotionally connected to themselves. They will not indulge in behaviors like excessively going out, people pleasing behaviors, attracting the wrong kind of habits and chronic illness to their life because of this. Contemporary biosocial models of disease on true health and illness as an amalgamation of biological, psychological, and social factors. That means a lot of researchers have said any sort of biological and psychological disease is coming from, in today's time, coming from factors which are social, psychological, and biological. Psychological, why? Lesser is your well being, lesser emotionally intelligent you are, the more people pleasing behaviors, the more behaviors you will take social approval from, the more behaviors you will commit which will make you available for people without knowing your worth. So that will directly reduce your well-being and mental health. So this is three major things that states if we have emotional intelligence, how it can change our lifestyle and us. Now let's move to another topic which talks about application of EI in interpersonal relationship and managing conflicts. I feel this is like something that we come down to the base point itself. When I say that we come to the base point, we will also compare the different kind of applications that we have. This is directly associated to EI. Emotional intelligence is interpersonally managing things better and reducing the conflicts. So when does conflict comes by? Conflict comes by when one party perceives that that its interests are being opposed or it's being hampered. They're negatively being impacted by the other party. At times, the in-group, out-group factors also creates conflict. The in-group find themselves superior, the out-group find themselves inferior. Also, it could be vice versa. Conflicts in any environment we can come up. We cannot feel that conflicts in families do not happen. It is obviously primarily conflicts are so many in families, friends, amongst friends, in workplace, place of relationships, etc. So there could be many places that conflict can arise, which is you feel negatively affected, you feel that your interests are not being achieved, which Callister in 1995 mentioned. Also, concern for self to the degree to which individual attempts to satisfy his or her concern. So concern is what? Concern is a degree to which an individual satisfy whatever that he needs or whatever he wants. So based on the two dimensions that we had, there are five kind of styles of handling conflicts comes in, which is identified as integrating, obliging, dominating, avoiding, and compromising. So these are some of those things that you can do to manage conflict. And we can see on the left side also the image. We'll discuss the image also. Let's understand. We have four styles, which is obliging, avoiding, accommodating, integrating, and compromising. And it also dominating also comes one of them. And we can associate this equally to the graph which is being mentioned to our side, which is obviously competing, collaborating, and competing is something where you tend to dominate the other person. Compromise, avoiding, and accommodating. Avoiding would be something which is completely one or both parties seek to suppress the conflict. So they don't discuss it at all. We tend to do this in our relationship when we do not want to lose anything and we have no other way out. We avoid the conversation, close it, saying, okay, fine, whatever said, done was correct at your end. So what did we do? We avoided the conflict. Also, competing means one party seeks to satisfy interest regardless of the impact of the others. So this is dominating. Competing is more dominating, as said. Mentioned here is the 5 styles, which is you want to complete your task, you want to achieve your goals, irrespective what is happening to the other person. So one way that we manage, conflicts are dominating or competing with others. Then collaboration talks about integrating. The two parties come together, find a solution, and they both win. So this could be like, let's take an example. This has been done by Sheriff and Sheriff. There was this experiment where they were looking forward to, conflict resolution, and they came to something which was subordinate goals. Collaboration is like a subordinate goals, which both looking forward. So there were resources which was falling short for two groups. So when they were competing, one group used to take away all the resource, like water and essential electricity. When they were collaborating, they did it that they divided the resource into two and picked it up equally. So this was collaborating, which is integrating both the needs, knowing that both need the basic resource. Without the basic resource, none of us can work and function. So they started collaborating. Compromising is so easy. Compromising is that both parties win and give up something. So both parties are doing something and they each of one give up something or the other. So that's also one of the most subtle side of conflict resolution. Imagine if you have a fight with your sibling and you're still fighting for that resource. So you both will win when your sibling leaves a part for you and you leave a part for your sibling. Let's take an example of chocolate. Both of them has received two different chocolate, then they fight for the other, one another. So one siblings take away, the other, remember, that's dominating. You have competed and took away your sibling's chocolate also, and it's gone. Collaborating would be both parties winning, which is what? How can both party wins? You equally divide the both chocolates to one another. What is compromising? Giving a bit of your chocolate to one another, which is compromising. Both will win, you give away something. Then comes avoidance. You don't discuss it only. You suppress your need of eating the other one. You feel, okay, let's leave it. It will lead to conflicts. Let's not discuss it. If it has a problem, it will happen later. What is the drawback of having avoiding as a style? We do not discuss the conflict. We ideally are not responding to the conflict, we are just subsiding the conflict. So, when we talk about subsiding, we do not pay attention to the conflict as such. We are just saying, okay, let's not talk about it. It's done and it's finished. We just wrap it up. The last that we talk about is something which is accommodating, which is one party yields the win to the other. So, one party gives away, obliging, okay, fine, you can take this time, I will take it the next. So this is again an importance of telling us that how does, the styles in conflict resolution will help you manage. So if you accommodate emotional intelligence and all of this, you can pick up the best style out of the 5 and lead to a better development and a better management of emotions. Now let's analyze the graph again. Low importance of achieving a goal would be competing and collaborating. Avoiding and accommodating. So when you do not want to really achieve something, you avoid things and you accommodate it, like give it to the other person. Take it away. I don't need it. You accommodate it. High achievement of goals in conflict is when you're competing and collaborating, when you're equally dividing and you're fighting for it, dominating the others. Similarly, low importance of relationship is in competing and avoiding. Competing because you're dominating the other person, and avoiding because you do not consider the needs, you just wrap up the problem and finish it up. Then importance of relationship and accommodating and collaborating is highest. You look forward to the others, don't you? You're telling them, I'm obliging you, I'm giving you this win this time, you give me the other time because I don't need it. That is valuing relationship. So EI actually can be incorporated in every area, and this 5 style of conflict resolution learned better will not only facilitate relationships but also make you better in understanding people and managing your conflicts better. EI is an important component. We need to understand it today to manage conflicts. It will not only help you recognize your own emotions, I feel it will also help you recognize what other people's are feeling. The influence get better. The influence on other people gets better. There are lesser conflicts. lesser prejudice in the society will prevail. So when I say prejudice, less discrimination will come in. We will discriminate less number of time. We do not look for, we will not shame people away. We will not demean and belittle them. Also, emotional intelligence facilitates better interpersonal decisions. Your conflicts are resolved in a more constructive way. You have better choices. You solve better problems. And further, it leads to better well being and health. Conflicts also makes us frustrated. It also makes us aggressive. And at the same time, conflicts also eats away a lot of our energy physically. So the more emotionally combated that we are, the better that we resolve conflicts. So to sum it up today, let's understand what all we did in terms of application. First, let's through and through understand whether we understood that emotional intelligence is applicable at school in two ways. We need to put it to the educational system, and then we need to foster it in children and teachers. And the connect remains the same, directly proportional to academic success, directly proportional to better well being and health. And not health, but at least well being in school, and also low trouble behaviors will lead to. You put it at work. Not only the success of the individual will flourish, but also the success of the organization. All of this is better. The success is reached, better well-being, better mental health, and also equally better state of mind. You put it similarly. Let's take an example: emotional intelligence put out, to children, and also in a personal level for relationship. It will not only combat you making better problem solving, better relationship, managing conflicts well individually, but also having harmonious relationship with one another and having a positive attitude. This completes with emotional intelligence today, completely finishing this entire unit as BPC 183 today, 184 today with me. Thank you.